the most stacked RLCS major of all time, was played this last weekend. And if you planned on watching it back and you don't want any spoilers, then this video is not for you. Come back to this video once it's already over. It might be too late for you, but either way, we are watching from Juicy POV. Juicy is the one who won the RLCS MVP over the weekend because him and his gentlemates were the team that went undefeated to take it down. The EU number 4 seed, able to get the win at the major, and they had one of the toughest runs I think you'll ever see from teams. You know, like I talked about, most stacked major, they might have had the most stacked set of 6 opponents as they went 3-0 through the Swiss and then 3-0 through the bracket. Now, we're watching Juicy because he won the POV, or sorry, he won the MVP. We're on his POV, and that is because of his great performance on Championship Sunday. If you actually go through the rest of the tournament, I think people would probably have chosen Itachi as this team's best player, but Juicy popped off in the crucial moments in these 2 games that we're going to watch today that were on Championship Sunday, which I think is why ultimately the voters ended up giving the MVP award to Juicy. But this might be one of the teamiest teams we've seen in a while, as Juicy flies high for the reset to get around Rise and leaves it off for the other guy who had been playing so well all weekend in Itachi. So I went and looked through not only the replays to find the interesting ones that I think were the big part in him getting the award, but also a couple of the stats of them compared to other players on Championship Sunday. So KC, Vitality, G2, and of course the Gentlemates, to see what kind of play styles are working best here on the final day in the best of Rocket League. And what was actually interesting is that according to average speed, you will find that Itachi, Seiko, and Juicy are all the slowest of any of the players that played in Championship Sunday, which is a complete change to what I think a lot of people are used to. You know, in this day and age in Rocket League, it seems like the faster you go, the better. And the fastest teams often result in winning, and the most offensive teams often result in winning. And yet this team seems to maybe be a bit of an exception. Not only are they the slowest team according to average speed, but they also found themselves in the defensive half maybe a lot more than some of the other teams that you'd expect to be winning. Like KC is as an example of, you know, the best team that is an ultra aggressive team, especially Atto is wildly aggressive, and Rise also upfield a ton. It was Vatira who found himself mostly in the back half, but even then they were bested by this somewhat defensive team, somewhat slow team you could argue, and it was very interesting. So one of the things I noticed as well is you'd think if this team had the lowest average speed, they must have had the lowest amount of boost as well, but actually they had some of the highest. In fact, Juicy had some of the highest average boost in the tank despite playing so slow, which I mean, I guess could make sense, right? He's not using his boost as much as everyone else is, and yet he's still making huge plays. So it's all about picking your shots and being in the right position nowadays here on this Championship Sunday, as that was what led Juicy to playing so well, as he's going to boom this off the back wall in hopes for Itachi to follow it up. He's also, another stat that I recognized here in my notes, on top of having the highest average boost, he also had some of the least time spent on zero boost, which just, you know, goes to show that it was conservation and using boost at the right time and always having it available for when it was needed that seemed to be the difference maker here. As Atto, this was a great shot from Rise, and we're watching this live. We actually did watch parties this last weekend. You might have been able to see them on YouTube because I stream them to YouTube as well, but it's something we might get into more if you guys enjoy them. It seemed like we had a good time this weekend, and good time to really interact with you guys when I don't really get to in other occasions. As Juicy going to try and get around too. He's been a playmaker. He wasn't necessarily all upfield like you would expect sometimes from players to win MVPs. Usually the guys getting the striking done for their team will often get recognition, but Juicy spent a lot of his time actually in the midfield as he makes this save off the back wall. Might be one of the more mechanical players. I think for those of you that have watched Juicy for a while, in fact somebody mentioned it during the watch party, seeing Juicy versus Joyo was one of the more interesting 1v1 show matches we had, even though both of them are not really as big of one's grinders as we see from other people. They are just so mechanical and so willing to pop off and essentially freestyle in that match. People enjoyed it a lot. But 1-1 in this semifinal that we're watching. This is game number 6 against KC, and actually the Gentlemates are down. So it's looking like the inevitable, the storybook ending is going to happen here, which is KC is going to play against G2 in the grand final like everyone figured it would be. Or actually, I don't know if people figured it would be, but it was definitely the most storybook way to potentially end the major. But Gentlemates and the EU 4 seed, the team that everybody doubted and had written off, and I'll admit, even myself, I felt like I hadn't seen enough from the EU 4 seed coming into the major to see them perform as well as the rest. And yet here they are in an overtime in game number 6, so their life on the line. Huge moments, and Juicy has risen to the occasion here on these Sundays. And I think that's the reason why he wins this MVP. And Seiko is going to boom this huge clear off the back wall. See Juicy in his familiar place in the midfield. Big miss from Rise, but fortunate that Feer is able to get that demo to not really get punished for that situation. Juicy on the respawn, soft touch to control as he tries to get 2 wins in a row. Seiko is a guy who, I mean, we talk about the teamiest team. I talked about Itachi and how he played the best maybe for his team over there, of course, the entire weekend. Juicy looking for this nutty angle, and when it's Juicy, you know he might hit it, but he actually does put it slightly high. Seiko, of course, a high-level player as well. If you look at the AI that likes to rate players based on Halfway Dead, the guy who made the rocket science AI, it actually has all 3 Gentlemates players as the 3 best players, and actually Juicy as the lowest of the 3, despite him winning the MVP. But I think it's because the intangibles here in these great moments, the AI can't see, it just sees the numbers. As Juicy using his last bit of boost here, deciding not to steal that offensive corner. Instead, turn back to the midfield to potentially be available for a Seiko pass. Juicy now spending time as last back. Gonna tap one to the back wall and get this angle into the top right with multiple defenders in net to keep his team alive. And you know, you may have seen a shot like this before, and sometimes these shots don't look as spectacular if you're just looking at them in the replay and you're not thinking of the context, but the context of being able to score this against KC to force a Game 7, slot into the top right, 2 defenders in net, wise enough to not just play it quickly, but instead play it to the back wall to make sure that Fatira has no way to be involved in the play, dodging the demo as well. Huge play from Juicy, and KC went on to win in Game 7, but there's another game that happened in the grand finals that I think had a lot to do with why Juicy was the MVP. This is game number 2 against G2. G2, the North American hope for the tournaments. People weren't sure whether or not North America would have a chance, and G2 definitely did. They looked like a very strong team. And interestingly, you know, North America has been given flack in the past for being defensive and, you know, slower than EU. Not playing as much offense and trying to almost counterattack and play out of net, which has not been a winning strategy. Well, I'll tell you what, the stats for Championship Sunday would not suggest that that's what happened with G2, because G2 was one of the more aggressive, speedy teams, spending a ton of time on offense. I think a lot of that has to do with their match against Vitality, because Vitality actually ended up, you know, looking like a very defensive team according to the stats, and that's because G2 were just pressuring them like crazy. They had attempt after attempt after attempt. Vitality would hold on for a while, but ended up playing a ton in their own half, and I think that led to both G2 having such aggressive stats as well as Vitality having such defensive ones. But either way, it's going to be Juicy with the first goal in this game, number 2. Gentlemates are up 1-0. Seiko able to play around the ball in the midfield. What a double. I remember seeing that from beast mode, but slightly off target. Atomic able to double twice as well. Actually a good sequence here for G2. Juicy able to stay patient though on that back wall. Resist the temptation to turn in and wait for it to come out to him. That double is slightly off target. I mean, we're looking at great chances for G2, if I'm being honest. I think I even remember saying live during the matches, you know, those are the chances they have to be hitting if they want to win this game. Juicy, huge save on beast mode dribble, but the follow-up from Atomic does tie the game. We saw a ton of kickoff strategies as well from everybody in the tournament. I think KC and Falcons are some of the teams that use them the most, but they're a clear kickoff strategy that doesn't work out for the Gentlemates, as Itachi delaying his kickoff, trying to guide it off to the right where Juicy was cheating, and didn't work out in their favor. Now this one is a kickoff loss. Back to Juicy. Gets a reset at ceiling height and is intercepted by Daniel, the other guy for G2, who spent the time highest in the air alongside Juicy for his team. It's Juicy. A reset the midfield. Challenging just to make sure that Atomic gets rid of the ball and puts it off to his teammate. Daniel missing on his ground pinch. Juicy has spent a ton of time just waiting here as he's looking to get a big clear out. He finally will do so. And I feel like you see Juicy in these moments not diving, not challenging, not overplaying like maybe lots of players do, especially as first man. Juicy was there for a moment. Even there, recognizing quickly that his challenge was off, saving as much boost as possible. We see him sitting here on 70, 80 boost at every moment that he can. Even in this moment, not using a ton of boost to get this touch, just 30 to tap it in towards the corner, and always being ready to make a play. Seiko and Itachi almost able to find something at the midfield, but when Daniel goes high, Juicy's there to take it away. Minute 57, and G2 in the lead. As Itachi and Seiko take turns trying to snipe the different parts of the woodwork in their attempt to break through. Rare moment for Juicy on low boost. A rare moment in the back corner. He does seem to spend most of his time out in the midfield, and Juicy is such a creator. Anytime you see him on the ball solo, that is when people are getting worried. Pass play, and what a snipe here from Juicy. This is one of the most amazing shots that probably won't get highlighted too much because it is just a ground shot that gets sliced between defenders, but there is not a huge window to score here. And if you watch it from this bottom right corner, you see Atomic is there, Beast Mode is there, and yet somehow, some way, he found a way to snipe it in the bottom left. And, you know, those can be the difference makers in any match. So Juicy able to tie it up 2-2. And he will half flip on this kickoff, allowing Itachi to play on the ball. Again, Juicy saving 56 boost, not pre-jumping Daniel. Not going all in, but knows there needs to be somebody there. Just enough boost to get supersonic and force the challenge. As Seiko's going to pre-jump, drop the ball to Juicy. Little back wall double. Backing off as soon as he realizes Atomic is there. It'll be a full rotation for him now. Atomic maybe thinking about a demo attempt. You see Juicy rolling high on the back wall to stay nowhere near that, and actually sees an opportunity to steal the ball away. Now going to work in the offensive third. Great save from Itachi. Daniel not able to get it on that air dribble. Juicy's such a great player when it comes to controlling the ball. I say we haven't seen him a ton in ones, but it's clear that he knows the value of control when there is space, because that's certainly something that every ones player has to do. He is the only player back right now, needs a really strong touch or a fake. Works as well in order to not allow Atomic to get the ball. And a very fortunate double miss there. In fact, I know this is not really about this double miss, but I actually remember wanting to see this live again because, boy, was it close. And, oh, my God, yeah, Atomic is just expecting Seiko to get this touch. Atomic is jumping out ahead of Seiko's clear and trying to dunk it in. And Seiko does not get the touch, and so Atomic just goes flying past. And I wonder, did Seiko miss on purpose? Sorry to go in deep onto this play. Seiko he might have side flipped out of that on purpose because he sees Atomic coming and he thinks, oh shoot, I don't want to hit that ball directly into him. Side flip away and matrix it. If he did, very, very impressive play from Seiko. But they managed to come out alive, and the ball does hit the ground there, and now it's into yet another overtime. Overtimes are where the match hangs in the balance so easily. It could slip one way or the other. And whoever's able to take it often, you know, will end up winning the series. In fact, The mates were really good in overtime. And specifically, as you'll see, this guy Juicy, the difference maker, as he's able to win the race in the midfield. And was hoping to wait on the ground for beast mode when he had to get rid of it, but got demoed, got double demoed. Looking like G2's getting mad at just how effective he's been. Seiko forcing the strong touch. Juicy, before he's able to get the reset, get anything going, he does get intercepted. It seems like Juicy's afraid of the demos now. Super high single jump. Only reason for that has got to be to try and avoid a demo. Good 50 from G2, but no follow-up. Now Juicy alone, trying to get that double on Atomic. Or not that double, but the dunk on Atomic. Juicy looking to place down on Itachi. Saw all the defenders in net, but if he could get it to Itachi, Itachi might be able to redirect it and make it work. Even when Juicy doesn't get the great first touch like he did there, always able to find a way back to the ball. That's what that card control could do for you. And anybody in this lobby is probably capable of it. We're seeing some of the most mechanical players right now. A little single jump to dodge beast mode, put one on target. Keep G2 sweating in the defensive third. Now G2, I mean, this is Juicy slowing the play down whenever he thinks it's necessary. That time, dropping the ball down for a low 50, and now just has beast mode to beat, and he makes it happen off the ceiling. So these were huge, huge plays that I think for the reason why everyone had Juicy in mind when he was, voting for MVP, or when everyone was voting for MVP. And I think being able to get the edge in these big overtime games is the reason why he comes out as the MVP. And he was just a maniac on ball in terms of his ability to create and what he got going for his team. And he did it while not being the fastest player ever and not being, a boost hog and going crazy on the map like we've maybe seen from best players in the past. Very calculated and a very strong entire team over there on the Gentlemates. But I just wanted to look at a couple different replays from Juicy so you guys get an idea of what it's like to be an MVP from his POV. Hopefully you enjoyed the video.